say. It might be another country, but where are we headed at? So allow me to introduce you. Sami, Mr. Sami Karanja, thank you very much for creating time. You are CEO, MSME.
Yes.
Alliance of Kenya, and GM Top Marine Logistics.
Yes.
Karibu sana.
Thank you for having me.
Please say good morning to the viewers. I always like them to understand that this is a conversation and you are at their level.
Asante.
Yes.
Good morning, viewers. Thank you for hooking up with Look Up TV. I know you're going to have a very informative discussion this morning, and thank you for having me. Asante.
Once again, Karibu sana.
Asante.
Mr. Eric Odera, you're a tax manager and auditor at Kinyori and Associates CPA. Karibu sana.
Thank you very much for having me. Hopefully we'll have a very interactive discussion. Thank you.
You know, the reason why I called us here is we've had the hashtag lower the food prices in Kenya. We've followed closely the, now settled Keroche Brewery's story, other factories being shut down, but we're still seeing another thing creeping in where people are still saying the cost of living is going up. Matatus want to strike because of fuel prices. We've seen our politicians, go abroad, for reasons 1, 2, 3, saying they're talking to people in diaspora. We've seen our State House diary, our members of state go and try to make bilateral relationships. But someone challenged me and said, is it relationships or are we dependent? So let's start with that, where we are standing right now. Let's just the way I asked the previous guest. If I asked you randomly, is Kenya independent?
Well, I want to approach it in a very analytical and critical position. Kenya is very independent. And I'll say the reason why is because when you look at the constitution of the country and when you look at the way you are being given the leeway, let me just say that way, the leeway to be able to manage our affairs in this jurisdiction within the boundaries of Kenya. Because I know that people say we are not independent because there are external forces that seemingly come into our country and seemingly force things out. Having said that, there's no country which is an island, and that's why we have inter or cross the border kind of relationship. And that is why we are dependent on the Eastern, the Asian tigers, Europe, Dubai, UAE. So we are dependent on them, and we are interdependent because they depend on us on some things, we depend on them on something. So we have what we call a global economy. In that global economy, you cannot be able to segment yourself and exclude yourself from the effects of what's happening around. But basically, when it comes to the affairs of the country, there is a percentage that we are able to manage ourselves, and also there's a percentage we cannot go beyond. Why? Because it's going to affect other countries based on the decisions that we are going to make. And so when you talk about independence, yes, we are based on how we are able to manage our affairs within, because you see pre-colonial, if you read the history, you are not able to make the strides that you are able to make. And you can see the strides that you have made so far. You remember they also, immediately after colonialism, then we got our first president. You remember what was happening then. Then we got our second president. You remember, like, we couldn't have even shows discussing such a topic. Are we independent? Because immediately after we discussed this show, myself and my brother outside here, we are going to go somewhere else. And only God knows what is going to happen there. And so we have made strides, and we are still going to make strides. We are a young democracy. When you look at other democracies like in the US and other countries, we are a young democracy. US is boasting about 154 years. We are only 50 years, so we are a young democracy. But having said that, there are some decisions definitely that what we call the Uncle Sam or the big brother makes on our behalf, and it's because we are not there.
All right.
Yes.
I like when you said, well, we are doing well, but we are not there.
Yes.
And he has actually called us a small democracy, 50 years plus. It's a good thing you've compared us to the United States, which is 100 plus years. So is this the longest, and even as we're speaking, is the US really dependent? It would be another question. I want to challenge, and I want to hear from you, of course, but we'll come back to the aspect where you said it's how we handle our own affairs. Not forgetting we are now even importing things like maize. We're coming to that. But what is your answer, sir? Is Kenya independent?
Kenya is independent, so says the Constitution of Kenya.
So says the Constitution of Kenya.
Yes. And Kenya can also be said to be independent by look at the freedoms and liberties that Kenyans are enjoying. to distinguish between an independent and a country which is not independent. That can also be seen from the quality of life and the growth in terms of the economy and the growth in terms of social, even in the political space that is available and exercisable. And all that, the evidence that is available shows that Kenya is at a very progressive rate compared to the place or the years that were before we are today. I know, like my brother has rightly put, there are several factors that Kenya has to depend on that cannot be found within the bounds and the boundaries of our country. And that's agreeable. No country is standalone.
All right.
Whether it is in terms of social and majorly it is in terms of economic, because you'll find that different countries occupy different locations in the world, and those look them an economic age in terms of one product or another, and they have to get the other which they don't have from other countries. And so Kenya is not an island. It has to get other products from other countries. Majorly, Kenya does not manufacture much when it comes to other things that Kenya needs, like metal, a lot of machinery.
All right.
Yeah, to put it plainly, a lot of machinery, and Kenya has to import that. And not just Kenya, many other countries. Even the US that people say is much developed and has a stable economy still has to get some other products from those other countries, majorly agricultural and all that. So the dependence of countries is due to the fact that they cannot produce everything within their bounds. But the independence of a country is the fact that they are able to carry out their affairs by themselves. They are able to enjoy their freedoms. Kenyans are enjoying freedoms, and I think the best kind of human rights freedoms in the world. Our constitution is described as one of the most progressive ones in the world. So what Kenyans should do is to, I think we should be moving away from the complaining desk and trying to work ourselves and seeing the positive things that are within our bounds.
Now that we're speaking, a lot of complaints are still going on Twitter. And that is something that is now becoming a norm. Yeah. People say Kenyans are good at complaining, and that's why I thought this is a good discussion. So we understand, as we complain, what really are we complaining about? Can we go into detail and now take a look at, I know we've had an overview, but I'd ask you, what are the strengths of Kenya? Because you have said we should be able to handle our own current affairs. If I sit in the seat where the Kenyans are at, majority of what we get is trillions of money still being borrowed. And they have said when we pay this back, it is our tax-paying money. So we've also talked about production, which you have said, there are things that we cannot manufacture, and that is machinery, which we understand. But we have also seen us now get to the point where we have to import food stuff. And we just want to understand then, what are the strengths of our country? What have we been able to put together in all the many years, 50 plus, that we can now be saying, well, this we are proud of. This is in place. Yes.
Thank you. I want to also support my brother when he said about the strides that you have made, especially in human rights, which is very fundamental, the right to express ourselves. And I think Kenya, we are one of the countries in Africa that we are able to express ourselves. That's why in KOT, Kenyans on Twitter, we are known everywhere in the world. Oh, yeah. We are effective in the US and Europe, and you find that right is very strong, is enshrined, and people know how to express themselves. That's number one, because when it comes to democracy is when you are able to express your views, and you are able to live with your views without your right being infringed. Secondly, when you also look at the economy, sometimes we complain about the economy of Kenya. I've been able, based on where I am as in the logistic and also as MSME, Micro and Small Medium Enterprises Alliance of Kenya, I've been able to travel regionally. And when we compare ourselves with, let's say, an example like Malawi, I've been able to do some businesses in Malawi.
Yeah.
When you compare Malawi and Kenya, Kenya is London. Number one, yes. Number one, the high-speed internet that we enjoy. When you go to Malawi, when you talk about food security, Kenya, we are able to even buy food. Even if we can be able to farm based on different things we are going to discuss later, we can even afford to buy food. So you find that as much as you're complaining about the economy, we have come so far. The only issue that we have in Kenya is mismanagement of the resources, because we are very productive. Wake up in the morning at 3 a.m. and you're going to find Kenyans walking to work.
That's true.
3 a.m.
That's true.
So one of the strengths that we have is what we call the human resource.
Yeah.
People are educated in Kenya, highly educated in Kenya. People are highly innovative in Kenya.
Very hardworking.
Very hardworking in Kenya. We have what we call the microeconomy and the macroeconomy.
Okay.
The microeconomy, the reason why we never plunge into recession, even if you hear that the food, we have issues with food security and everything. People do what we call shadow banking. Most of the people are not banked.
Okay.
Or they prefer not to bank. So there's a lot of money that is not circulating within the system. And that's why Kenyans have been able to survive. Why? Because the macroeconomy is where now people are being taxed and everything. So there's a microeconomy where people are not taxed, and that's why you find KRA want to increase the tax base. But this is where now our strength is, because a person can wake up in the morning and they can transact through M-Pesa. And they can borrow M-Shwari 5,000 shillings, go to Gikomba, get some shirts, come and sell them. Those shirts, eat, pay rent, and just live your life. And so that is our strength. We are innovative, we can't be crushed, regardless of the economic hardships that we get. And that is how you find ourselves somehow
able to stand.
Yeah, we are able to survive the hardships.
Sure.
And when you talk about the cost of living, the inflation is everywhere in the world.
Everywhere in the world.
It's everywhere in the world.
Okay.
And they tell you the reason why is because we have a global economy, and that global economy is affecting everybody. When you talk about the oil prices going up, the barrels going up, it affects the US, it affects Europe, it affects Africa.
And I'm going to cut you short there for just a few minutes to understand if he is so far agreeing with you, because he has been really agreeing with you. And remember that we're still coming back. We're just trying to make sure that Kenyans know what they're complaining about. Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Actually, I would want to tackle now the issue of the food price, so that Kenyans get to know what is happening. And I did an article even on Nation recently, I think some 2 weeks back, on the same topic. The issue of food price crisis that is being experienced is a global, as my brother puts it. And there are factors that has driven us to that far. One of which is currently we are experiencing a climatic change. You will realize that even up to now, we haven't experienced any rains. The better part of last year, there wasn't any rain. Rain has a direct effect on the level and the production volume of the food that we produce. And when we, and you know, Kenya has a rising population. We have a growing population. Statistics, the last statistics of 2019 showed that we are at 50 plus. That is different from the planning that we used to have in the 70s.
Yes.
So that population is eating. What are they eating? Food. Where is that food coming from? From our fields. And that food is driven majorly by rain. So we need to do a lot of, we need to understand those basic facts. So the other factors is that the climatic change is not a Kenyan thing. It affects other countries. Even in those countries, whenever there is less rain, then we have a situation whereby the food does not match up with the population that we currently have.
Yes.
So again, issues of like the oil prices. Oil has a great impact on the food prices, because you'll realize that countries like US, the developed ones, their main intention is to buy the oil-rich, agricultural products like rice, like maize, and they are converting it, to to processed food. So as much as we in the developing economies are relying on certain food as staple, some bigger economies are relying on it for conversion. You know, so again, when you have a U.S. And a Kenyan in the same market and they are all buying, you know, who has the bigger purchasing power? You know, so those kind of forces again are helping. So then, with that, then now we'll come back to that your earlier question.
Yes.
Is Kenya independent? So that independence in terms of economic forces and all that, then there is those kind of those are just market forces, and they have nothing to do with our being independent.
All right.
And I think
yes.
Now the challenge that we have now that he has said that is that we have a government that has archaic policies, because you also need to move with the times. Times meaning that when you look at even the developed countries right now, there's a time they decided that at this particular moment, now we can be able to convert maize into oil. We can be able to convert rice into oil or something else. And so we live in a country that some policies are very archaic. We also have some people who are also very archaic. So you find in some of those positions, we have people who have overstayed, because now we need young brains who can be able now to come and say, now from where we are in the manufacturing, when you look about when you are in the 21st century, we are not supposed to be importing this, we are not supposed to be importing toothpicks, we are not supposed to be importing earbuds, we are not supposed to be importing maize, we are not supposed to be importing carpets, we are not supposed to be importing bolts, all those things. We are supposed to do it here, and we have capacity to do that, and we also have even people with financial muscles to do that.
All right.
But you find that there is a lot of bureaucracy, and there are people who have their own personal interests. They do not want to change with the times. A person is in a government office for the last 30 years. What are they doing there? And so when you're looking at the transition from where we are to the next level, and that's now why people are feeling the pinch, because the young people are asking themselves, because right now we have the world in our hands. When you have your tablet there and you have your phone there, you can be able to see what's happening globally. Initially, we couldn't compare ourselves with any other country. And so that's why we knew Kenya is the best country ever. But now we can compare ourselves with Singapore. We were at par in the 1960s. Why is Singapore now a first world and we are still a third world? We are saying we are a developing world, but we are somewhere there. We can't be able to define ourselves very well.
See, we cannot be able to define
ourselves very well, whether we're in the third world or whether in the developing section. So when you look at Singapore, we are at par with them. The Asian tigers, we are at par with them in the 1960s. When we gained independence, we could even give money to Singapore. We could give help to Singapore. Today, we can only borrow money from them. We can only borrow technology from them. So it also depends on the quality of the leaders that we put in place. And one of the disadvantages that we have as a nation is that we have not been able to separate ourselves from what we call the tribal cocoons, whereby we feel that this is our own, regardless of their merit. So we elect people based on tribal inclination, but not based on delivery or what they can be able to do. Because we cannot have a conversation by saying we do not want another Kikuyu president, we don't want another Luo president, we don't have a Pokot president. It's like a rotational thing. We don't elect people based on tribes. We elect people based on capacity to come up with policies and to lead this country. And that is why you find even in the US, they don't have, there is Spanish, there is the Black Americans, and it's very loud out there. But bottom line, capacity. Can you be able to deliver for this country what is supposed to be delivered? So regionally, and I can tell you this, Tanzania is overtaking us.
All right.
Oh yes, Tanzania is overtaking us. Why? Because they changed, the former president, the late Magufuli, was able to come up with policies. Today you cannot penetrate the Tanzanian market without a local. They are producing a lot of rice. Go as Karanja and buy rice directly from the farmers. I have to go through a local, a person, a company that has already been given the mandate and exclusivity to sell that rice. So today we are seeing a Chinese coming to Nyamakima, registering a company, registering a clearing company, having a shop, doing manufacturing, doing wholesaling, distributorship, and retailing policy.
You know, when you've talked about not going through, you know, there as a foreigner and doing things with the local, I think last week or a few weeks ago, we highlighted a story of a Chinese company holding Kenyans hostage, the workers hostage. I think one of these people trying to build one of the roads. And for quite a number, maybe over 100, I will not really be specific on that for now, but that's a story in the limelight. And you'd ask yourself, and they say they were using the excuse of COVID-19. And then those are the questions that I would ask myself. If we were really independent, you've talked about being safe in your own country. We should be priding in that. What did you say of such incidents happening within this country?
Well, it is sad, but again, it points to weaker protection policies. And that is the major thing that I think the Kenyans are really getting disappointed in terms of getting security from the government, because even if you leave at the issue of being insecure in terms of the jobs, the protection policy should be felt even at different sectors, majorly at the agricultural. That's why it is disappointing to find that Kenya is importing things like eggs, maize, rice, and things like that. It shouldn't be, because we have enough and very productive lands.
Okay.
We have very good human resource. We have very bright people. So the protection policy that is supposed to be protecting the younger, the developing economies and the young brains and the innovations that we have, that's where I think the missing link is. And that is what, if I were in a position to implement policies in this country, I would really work on. I know so many young people, you know, who have been very creative, coming up with very good ideas. I'm glad there was some little protection policy in Parliament last time in terms of the music industry.
Yes.
But I wish they would extend it to all others.
Okay.
You know, yeah, because like you are saying that we are importing agricultural products. You know, in some countries you can never dare import import agricultural products into their economies. Why? Because they are able to produce that. We should only bring in that which we don't have.
Okay.
Okay. And again, if Tanzania is already implementing this, that's very good for them. The same thing should happen in Kenya.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think it is not, again, good to have Kenyans exposed to exploitative employment tendencies like those ones of Chinese. Those ones then now points out to our weak independence then.
And actually now what happens with the Chinese now, because now we have weak policies which are not protecting our businesses. So the Chinese, because we said we are a global economy, and so what happens is that you look at the weak point, and every country looks at the weak point of the other country to take advantage of, and to get as much as they can.
You're talking about to take advantage of?
Yes, take advantage.
All right.
But there is something I need to say on that. I think especially young employers
or employees?
Employees.
Yes.
Yeah, the young employees in Kenya are not being protected. There is a lot of exploitation, you know, meted on young Kenyans. I think the government should look into this, especially by the private sector. These guys, there's very little regulation. You find that employers are really taking advantage, and the Kenyans have nowhere to go to. They don't have, until you find people losing their lives, people being mistreated, so many Kenyans are going through depression and all that. So I think they should really work on those policies.
The labor laws.
And even as you're talking of the policies, I was coming to the taking advantage, and that is where we find post-colonization, because this is where we are at. The Chinese, like we've mentioned, we're not saying they're, you know, actually colonizing us, but if that's what you pick, it could also work. They have been constructing our roads. You said we have very good human resource. very hardworking Kenyans. You know, we can borrow what we do not have. But as it stands, we have certain roads that are yet to be taxed. So
Yes.
people will be paying for using those main roads because of traffic. And we also have about 428 million or billion debt when it comes to our infrastructure. I don't know what that would mean, therefore, when it comes to this discussion, as you were talking about it earlier.
Let me just say this, and this is my personal view, personal sentiments.
Yes.
When it's saying post-colonization, colonization is suppressing a person's rights unwillingly. So you come because you have more strength, more power, and you subject me to a certain kind of slavery. We have subjected ourselves willingly.
Okay, all right.
Based on not having capacity judged by our leaders. So our leaders, from where they sit, they think we need the Chinese or they think we need any other country to be able to produce what we are what they are giving us today, which goes back to who is your leader? Who is that person that you're putting in that seat? Because when you're talking about even roads, yes, we are supposed even to pay taxes for the roads. We pay taxes even through fuel. That's why fuel is very expensive. Fuel docks in Mombasa, 48 shillings per liter. When it's coming to you, it's coming to 135 shillings. So almost 100 shillings. So you are going to find the levies there. The road levy is already there. So you are taxed to use the road already. And when I was growing up in the 80s, early 80s, we used to pay even to use Thika Road. That's why there's like a place called Toll Station, Toll. That's a place that when you are going to Shags, we used to pay. I could see my dad coming and paying. So we were paying to use that road. So instead of paying through the toll stations, the government saw it right for us to pay through fuel. But right now we are paying. If you go to Europe, there are roads that you are going to pay to use. So it's not a new thing. It is something that happens globally. And the reason why you pay is, number one, the maintenance of the road and security also of that road. We cannot be able to separate ourselves from that. But now, the intent of us paying the road. So what happened in the background to make us come to that point? Is it a personal project or is it a national project? If it's a national project, well and good. If it's a personal project, then we have still leadership issues right there. But when you're talking about infrastructure, we are supposed to take care of our infrastructure. We are supposed to to go to a capacity where we can be able to do that. Now, when you're talking about the Chinese, what made the Chinese grow this far and they are the talk of the world,
yes, they are,
is because they boosted what we call cottage industries. If you go to China today, go to Guangzhou, go to Yiwu and other provinces, you're going to find, in my balcony, I can start a small car factory, an assembly point of, for example, maybe extension cables. My balcony. So I call my brother, my sister, my mom, my dad, and we are there. And when you're looking at Alibaba, I've been able to register myself as a manufacturer. And so if you give me orders through Alibaba, I'm going to deliver to you. And the policies there they are very supportive, and you have a lot of incentives from the government.
Okay.
So for me today to have even an assembly point, there's what we call completely knocked down things. Even if I import different parts for maybe a flask, and I want to do it at the backyard, probably when you don't have a balcony, you have a backyard. The kind of policies I'm going to be subjected to, NEMA has to come, KRA has to come. What else? Other government agencies have to come to clear me. So when you're looking at cottage industries, where we are supposed to thrive, even young people are supposed to thrive and to create jobs, the government has so many archaic policies. Kenya Bureau of Standards, they are giving you standards which are 1960s, which you cannot be able to attain today. Why should I have, let's say, for example, if my drainage is okay and I'm doing completely knockdown, maybe I'm assembling flasks. Actually, there's a Chinese who is assembling flasks here in Kenya, and he's saying he's manufacturing. If I'm doing the same thing here, I'll be told to show the drainage. Do I need really water? I have my own drainage. I can't live without drainage in the house. Then I'm going to, what is the environmental impact assessment? There's no emission. I just need hands which are able to bring together the flasks. So when you're looking at those policies, they are not policies to build the industrialization of this country. And that's why I say politicians are not truthful.
All right.
They are not truthful, or let me call them leaders. They are not truthful with us as business community. Because the moment I want to go and manufacture, we have one of our members who manufactures bulbs.
Yes.
Kenya Revenue Authority, they had to come and put their meter there to see the kind of manufacturing and to gauge the manufacturing. Kenya Power and Lightning Company, they slapped him with a bill of 2 million shillings. That guy decided, instead of the cost of production here in Kenya is so much, I would rather import in from China and come and sell it here, and I'm going to make a profit. Let me shock you. The cost of production in Kenya is so much that it is easy for me to go to Joburg or Durban, set a plant there, and sell things to Kenya at a cheaper rate than when I've already set base here in the country.
That's just a food for thought. I know we have a very short time to, of course, summarize and allow you gentlemen to go on with your day. But, of course, I want to appreciate those who are watching us on social media this morning. Kennedy Jumba Asirik was saying, I'm back, locked in as usual. I'm watching from Bururu Center, Lukuyani Sub-County. I love Lookup TV. Hashtag my favorite channel. Thank you. Mr. Kahara is here and saying, good morning, great conversation, but I'm lost somewhere between independence and economic affairs. All right. As a Kenyan, how independent is an individual if he or she has no influence on pricing of commodities? Prices are now raised daily. As a Kenyan completing a university education, how independent does one feel in terms of employment guarantee? Of course, that's a question you want to probably answer. We touched on it, and I think Kenyans are now confused. Are we independent in our rights? Even politically, we're going to, you know, to the ballot, but we're asking, people have said, I will not vote. I vote, and it's not respected. I know you'll say back to the politicians, but you will touch on Kahara. I only have 3 minutes. And of course, Edgar Handsome Nyahururu saying he's locked from Nyahururu. Good morning, gentlemen. And now, Kahara's question. He's saying, as a Kenyan, fine, I understand the economists on set, but am I independent as a person? I don't get to get consulted. Maybe Kenyans feel they're entitled to doing more of the governance because it's democracy of the people, by the people.
Yes, for the people.
For the people.
Yes.
Well, he is independent and he should feel so. That's the first thing, because you have to first begin by using your mind.
Okay.
Okay. Once you do that, then you realize that you have a role to play, and you have to get out and do your part. But having said that, the government has a lot to do in terms of ensuring that the economy is favorable for everybody. That has not been done, because as it is a lot of capitalism, and those who have control the factors of production always have the fields day. And those who are the young ones coming from the universities and colleges and trying to come into the economy really find it hard to break, to knock out the glass ceilings. And so you love to do a lot by yourselves. You love to juggle around. Hopefully that the people who will be coming into leadership come this August will have very good policies that can try to impact on people. But again, from the economic point of view, prices should be determined by purely market forces of demand and supply.
All right.
So that you only purchase from that person whom you feel is pricing something that's affordable in your view, as you maintain the factors such as qualities and all that. And so I believe that Kenya is moving on well.
Okay.
We will only need to adjust. The government should work on policies that help spur growth and production, and then we'll be able to move on well.
All right.
Yeah.
I like that you have even given a conclusive closing remark right there.
Yeah.
And because of time, if I would allow you 1 more second, or you're good.
I think what he has said everything.
Yes.
Maybe a point of emphasis.
Yes.
Just say that each and every person has a responsibility to make sure that we make this country better and your life better. You cannot divorce the market forces, the economic forces with your freedom. So freedom comes when you have economic power and muscles, and also, you're able to move on your day-to-day life. But in Kenya, we are independent because we can be able to have this show, we can be able to walk, we can be able to work, we can be able to talk to our relatives. There are countries which you can be able to do that. And so we must appreciate what we have.
All right, there we started with start appreciating what you have. So when we see you on KOT and on social media and in my comment section today, please be able to justify why you're complaining by start appreciating that the 12th of January is therefore justified to be celebrated in this country as Jamhuri Day. So the guests have said, please celebrate freely and happily because there are certain countries you cannot do what you do in your country. Thank you, Kara, for asking the relationship between independence and the economic affairs. So we have not concluded, and I'd still love to hear from you on our social media platforms what your sentiments are as a Kenyan. Do you feel independent? Is this country really an independent country? Now, we will close it there. We come in with the culture umbrella. But gentlemen, we appreciate your presence and expertise. Please come again. This is something we always have to keep in check because I know they are watching the progress of how we see our country develop. You said Tanzania is overtaking us. Food for thought. Good morning.
Get a chance to wake up as a tourist as you view Mount Kenya every day by buying a plot of land at Wema Gardens, Naru Moru. At only 400 meters off tarmac, this is the right place to build your dream home, cottages or holiday homes. You can also buy this property to give to your children as a special inheritance. Water and electricity are in the vicinity, while neighbors are already building their homes. These plots are specially ready for you with title deeds scheduled to be out in 6 months. Buy